Welcome to the Kicks Factory. I am your host, Omar Bailey, footwear design, entrepreneur, and creator. But this show isn't about me. This show was created to tell you stories of those who are doing extraordinary things in the sneaker game. We're also here to celebrate and discuss footwear design and creation with the creators themselves. Welcome back to the Kicks Factory. I would like to bring in my brother, my compadre, my amigo, Duane A. Lawrence. Brother,
what's going
how
on,
are you doing today? Who is also joining us live from China right now.
Yeah.
How is it over there?
Man, it's cool. It's late over here. It's coming up on 10:30 p.m.
Yeah,
on a Wednesday night. So for the East Coast listeners, it's exactly 10:30 a.m. Wednesday morning. So, but it's good, man. The weather's right. We got a holiday coming up, but
okay.
you know,
okay. All right, I hear you. I was just thinking about when I was headed to the studio this morning. You know, I mean, we have a lot of things in common, but I think the one thing that we actually have in common right now is that there aren't a whole lot of us where we both are right now. I'm in Cody, Wyoming, and you're in Xiamen, China. Ain't a whole lot of brothers right now walking around in either one of those places.
Absolutely not, man. OBPH, only black person here.
That's right. That's right. But seriously, but on a serious note, how have things been over there, just with all the unrest and all the craziness that's been going on over here in the States? I'm curious to know if there's been, you know, if you've received any support, if people have even been talking about, you know, some of the protests and the Black Lives Matter situation that's going on. What's that been like over there?
Well, I'll start with off with the virus, coronavirus. That was wild because obviously that kicked off over here like late January, right around Chinese New Year, and I was traveling and got back into China in February, and everything was already on lockdown.
Damn.
So it was a lot of it unsettling at first, but one thing that, you know, was unsettling and reassuring at the same time was the amount of the cooperation that everybody had in terms of quarantining and locking everything down. There was nothing to get into, even if you wanted to go outside and
wow,
and you know,
they just shut it all down.
They just shut it all down. And to be honest with you, I was only quarantined for about 2 weeks, and then we went back to work with about 50% workforce, and then we did that for another 3 weeks, and then we were back to work 100%. You know, in 5-6 weeks. And with precautions in place, so it was like temperature checks every day, masks, you know, partitions in the cafeteria.
It's crazy.
You know, tissues and hand sanitizers in every elevator. So I mean, every restaurant, every coffee shop, any mall, anywhere you go, they were taking temperatures and whatnot. So, and they've definitely got like contact tracing going on now. So you know, as far as that goes, it made it a little uneasy, but but after a while, you were like, oh, okay, this is actually gonna be good, because then you got to see the cases kind of, you know, stall out for a little while.
Yeah, and where are you guys at right now? Things are good over there now?
Yeah, everything is good. My city, I live in a city called Xiamen, and it's an island that's like in the southern coast of China, kind of near Taiwan. Yeah, things are good. I think the most they got up to is somewhere around close to 40 cases. Okay. And then it just turned back, you know.
That's
and
great.
I think everybody was healed, so we didn't have any deaths or anything like that here. So thankfully, but it's been wild, and there's still some precautions like public transportation that we still have to wear a mask and take precautions. But for the most part, we're moving freely. We've been moving freely for months. Now, able to travel from city to city again. Yeah. So you know, I'm hoping and praying that that's the case for the U.S. here pretty soon, because
I don't know about that one, brother. I don't know.
I kind of thought, man. I kind of, so you know, it's funny. I was out this weekend. I met Ty Lawson,
Oh, really?
And
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Is he playing
He's
ball in
playing.
China or something, or what? What's his deal right now?
Yeah, he's playing in China, and
Yeah.
he said he came here 7 months ago. I said 7. So you came right when it popped off. He said, yeah, and it was popping off, so I went back. But then he's like, I kind of saw what was going on, so
He just stayed.
he came back like 3 months after that. So I'm guessing like around April.
Mm.
And he said he came back in like right before they closed the border. So so he's been over here. So so he started right on the wall. I kind of saw it too. I was like, man, this level of cooperation that's happening right now, I can't see this happening in the States. I just can't. And unfortunately, it's been that way. But you know, is what it is. As far as the protests and everything, it's been a little tough to sit back and see that happening from over here, knowing like having moved from Oakland and all that like there would have been more I could do. But you know, we're here now.
All right. Well, I appreciate you sharing that, man. But you know, I guess want to get to know you a little bit. So let's jump into it, man. I want to, you know, you're from Florida. I'm from Florida. So I want to start there. Let's get to the beginning, man. What was it like growing up in Miami? We both have Caribbean parents. So, you know, I know, you know, we both grew up very differently than probably some of our friends, but I want you to dive into a little bit of that. Yeah,
man. So I came to the US. I came to the US when I was like 4 years old from Guyana. And I think, you know, like you said, having Caribbean parents, it's different because, you know, the types of professions that they obviously want you to get into. You know, designer's not really on the list. So the design in general is kind of like a hidden career. But they were still supportive. They were very supportive because I was always like a good student, good kid, and like just very strong in my convictions and what I wanted to do. So if it was something I said I wanted to do, I was going to do it. So they definitely supported me. Growing up in South Florida, I went, you know, to you know, a high school in South Florida called Dash in Miami.
Great school.
It's a magnet school. That's the word I was looking for, magnet school, for design and architecture. And that's where I kind of like honed my skills in terms of creating the things that I was, you know, envisioning in my head.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. And you guys are listening to the Kicks Factory podcast here with Duane A. Lawrence. So you were a Miami Heat ball boy. That is not, I don't meet ball boys that often, and I'm proud to be friends with a former NBA ball boy. What was that experience like? Tell me about that one in Miami. And you know, and those are some terrible teams too back in the day. So what was that like?
Yeah. Let me see. There was I was the ball boy in the 99-2000 seasons or senior year of high school.
Okay.
It's funny because I wanted that job when I was a sophomore, and I wrote a letter to the team manager. There was a girl who she was a team attendant, and she told me how to go about it. So I wrote the letter. I never heard back. Then like 2 years later, they said, you know, are you interested in doing it? But it doesn't pay. And I was like, yeah, of course. So came through. It turns out they pay the ball boys, and they definitely got paid. But like, I just wanted to be in that environment.
Yeah.
Man, that was the Zoe and Tim era.
Oh,
so
man. Kill a crossover. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and so I got to see the games up close. I got to hear all the stuff on the bench. I got to get kneed in the forehead. I got to wipe up Patrick Ewing's sweat.
That's awesome. Oh wait. So were you? No, this was long before like the fights and stuff, right? The Knicks rivalry. What was that like back then?
It was around that time. It was around that time. Man.
Okay.
It was definitely around the time that Allen Houston, all his boys used to send us packing.
Yep.
But yeah, it was cool, and it's funny, like tying that into footwear. The head trainer who managed the ball boys, you know, he would give me some pairs of shoes, or he'd tell me what was good about them, or what was bad about them, who didn't like what. And another high school job was, you probably remember the Athlete's Foot, that store, the Athlete's Foot.
Yeah, of course. Yep.
Yeah. Had that job that same year, and actually I left that job to do the ball boy job. But what was cool about that job was, you had to really know the product. Like they would pretty much test you on the product. Like if people were coming in, you needed to know based on price point why this shoe was a better running shoe or tennis shoe or basketball shoe than another shoe.
Right.
And you know, it was almost like I was getting this training that I didn't really even realize I was getting. But at the time, I knew I wanted to design shoes, but I was getting this like hands-on training about footwear. Obviously,
do you think that helped you a lot?
I think so. Yeah, I think it just gave me gave me that kind of technical mindset of just knowing that like these are performance items and they need to work, you know.
Okay, that's cool, man. And did you get to spend any time with the equipment staff and sort of sneak in the back there a little bit and do some of, just get your hand on some of that product?
Yeah. I would always like chill next to PJ Brown in the locker room.
PJ Brown, man.
Yeah. They would sometimes let me take home in size 18s. Shout out to Jay Table for the Miami Heat. Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
That was a cool experience. Real cool experience.
That's really cool. Well, we're gonna stop right here, take a little bit of a break. You know, we got to pay them bills and everything. And then when we come back, we're gonna dive into Duane's design career a little bit. And we are back on the Kicks Factory podcast with Duane A. Lawrence from Xiamen, China, joining us from Xiamen, China, live right now. And one thing I want to do on this show is I want to ask everyone the same question, simple question, and would love to get your response to this. And that question is, did you find footwear design, or did footwear design find you?
That's a good question. I want to say that footwear design found me, I think, because I think we mentioned it earlier. I went to a high school called Dash in Miami, where like at this point now, there's quite a few kids who've kind of followed my path in terms of going from Dash to a design college. One in particular that we'll get into later, and then jumping into the footwear industry. It's kind of like a stream of that now. But I thought I wanted to be an architect, and I went to Dash thinking I wanted to be an architect.
Yeah.
And when you get there, they kind of have like a wheel program where you can take different types of courses: graphic design, architecture, industrial design, website design. And I took all of those and thinking that I was going to move into architecture. And then I was just with one of my homies, and he was sketching a shoe, and that was it. I tried it one time.
You're like,
I was like, this is what I want to do.
That's a wrap. Gotcha.
My freshman year, and then it just pulled me in. It was just like, yo, I'm into kicks already. I'm into sketching things, and I just sketched a shoe, and that was it. Like I had a whole notebook throughout high school that I just kept all my designs in. I don't know where that notebook is now, but I probably wouldn't even want to look at that stuff. To be honest with you, but yeah, that's how it came to be, man. It was one of my homies who was drawing a shoe, and I was just like, "What are you doing?" And that was that.
Oh man, that's cool, man. I remember when we went to, and I know you mentioned it. We'll talk a little bit about Detroit. When we met in Detroit, and I remember just seeing your work and just being blown away. I went to like this sort of more traditional school, and you went to something that I think set you up a little bit better when you got to CCS. And your work just like blew me away, man. Like it really did. Like you're just the rendering skills, if we want to get detail, talk about the gouache and the marker renderings and all that good stuff, man. And your car stuff, people don't get it twisted. Like the shoe thing is one thing, but dude, your transportation, automotive, car sketches were just on another level too. So like, you had it both, I thought, at least. And I remember always being blown away by that. So with that said, like, what inspires you? Like, where do you think your creativity comes from in that?
Man, I think a lot of my creativity obviously just comes from my experiences. To pinpoint it, it's funny that I didn't become an architect, but because I really love architecture. And so I find myself, you know, very structural and very logical in my approach to my footwear design. I just feel like the footwear is more of a self-expression piece, and so that's probably why I drifted, you know, more towards that. But yeah, man, it's my inspiration just comes from, you know, all around me, all products that I use, things that I do, sports that I play. Yeah, just pick it up from everywhere.
Yeah, yeah, and just in you know, I want to talk just quickly too about Detroit, Michigan, and CCS. Obviously, from Miami, you know, probably a little bit of culture shock going from Miami to Detroit, Michigan.
Yeah.
You know, what was that experience like for you going to CCS and moving from the South to the North, where it's cold and snowy and dangerous?
Man, Detroit is wild. Shout out to Detroit. Man, yeah, like definitely a culture shock. That was the first time I had seen snow in my somewhat adult life, and like I wasn't even really sure like what was going on. You know, one of my homies in Detroit was like, or I was just like, "Yo, is this happen? Is this it? Is this going on?" And you know, but just the shift from even just high school to college and the demand that there was in terms of the workload, and you know, everybody you hear art school or something like that, and you know, you think, oh, that's, you know, people say, but like, you know, you were there, the late nights, the you know, the all-nighters, the 2 nights in a row, the 3 nights in a row, the 4 nights in a row, man, you know, without any sleep. It's
oh my goodness,
it was rigorous. It was crazy. As far as like geographically, yeah, I mean, growing up in Miami, and like having seen lots of other places, but living there and visiting or something like that is way different. And just the sheer like temperature drop change and going to Detroit was just was something else.
Yeah.
But all in all, I'm grateful for how much like work ethic it took to get through CCS and to get through a program like that.
Yeah, that's great. No, that really is great. You are listening to the Kicks Factory podcast, and we're here with Duane Lawrence. So tell me about your first trip ever to China. What was that like?
Wow. My first trip to China, you know, it's weird. Like, I still think about to this day, like, I don't know how I went through school and like loving footwear and the industry and never really like figured out that like, yo, one day you're going to go to China. That is going to take you to the other side of the world.
Yep.
And it was like, I was stunned when they were like, okay, you're going to go to China. Cause I started at Converse in 2004 in July, and they had me on the plane to China in August. So, you know, it was just like, oh, yeah. I'm here now. You know, I can imagine what it's like if a rookie gets into the league and then it's just like, oh, there's so-and-so. I got to guard him. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Oh, he's going to guard me, you know? So it's just like, oh, you got to go over there and make these shoes now. And it wasn't no more just sketching and, you know, photoshopping this and Illustrator that. It was like, it was go time. That first trip was cool. I was in China. Most China trips are like 7 to 10 days, but being a young designer, man, these companies, they know like they can push you a little further. I was there for 3.5 weeks.
Yep, that's right. Probably working that graveyard shift, man. Doing colorways, doing colors, picking out materials, all that stuff. Oh yeah, they know. That's why they got you on that plane so soon.
Yeah, that's why.
Wow.
You'll get over there and do some stuff. So 3.5 weeks of just like hanging out and messing around with, you know, just as a young designer, just trying to figure out like what goes where. It was a good experience. That's actually where the first Wade was birthed on that trip.
Okay.
So,
okay. Don't give them too much yet. We're gonna dive into that one a little bit later. So
I want to go talk about CC when you were introing the show. talking about how we met and everything.
Uh-oh.
I'm gonna tell a story about you.
Oh, snap.
And I'm in my dorm room. And by now I'd already met the likes of like Jason Maiden, Andrew Winfield, and all that. And I'm up pumping out some sketches. And I want to say that Drew brought you and Jonathan by, or maybe I just like met y'all and then was like, yeah, come by.
Yeah.
Oh no, Drew had to be around because Drew was showing his stuff to you guys.
Okay.
You guys were freshmen, I was a sophomore at the time. And y'all were just looking on, and I was just sitting there like chilling. And then Omar just looked at me and was just like, where your sketches at? He just looked at me like Devo and was like, what's up, bro?
Give me your sketches, punk.
Give me those sketches. Man, I had to pull my sketches out so fast.
Oh man, that's crazy. That was a good time, man. Those are some crazy times in Detroit, man. Falling asleep on floors, you know, passed out security guards that's supposed to be doing their job and they just sleeping in the booths.
Man, I try to black it out.
Oh man, that's crazy. But it's funny you mentioned that though, how when we started with your question about China, and I've thought about that too as well. And I remember, you know, being in school and college and not hearing anything about China. And then it wasn't until like, you know, I did get my first job and heard that I was like, China, like, why do I have to go there? And they were like, well, this is where the industry is. This is where you have to go and have to do it. And you know, I remember my first trip, and as a black man going there, and like, you know, I had some pretty crazy experiences where it was like, you know, people like just touching me and like touching my skin, thinking it was paint and it was gonna rub off. Like, it was crazy. Did you ever like, how did you feel over there as a brother? Were you just eluded by the excitement and just being in a different country, or were you aware of any of those things at the moment? How people, you know, the staring that would happen all the time. Like, how'd you feel?
You know, yeah, it was a little bit of both. It was like I was so excited to be in a new place. And I was just so excited to see like my sketches come to life and all that. And then, yes, definitely the staring, definitely like the pictures, definitely the like
the pictures,
checking to see if your skin color's gonna come off, which is just so fat. At the time though, I was just so young and excited that like that it was sometimes it was just entertaining to me. That, like, you know, you don't know that culturally they haven't been that exposed.
Yeah, they're curious, right? You can't take it personal. Yeah,
and then you read a few books and then you're just like, oh, this is foul. But because like now living here and having to like try to feel like I belong here, it's different when it's like, oh, I'm here for 2 weeks. Oh, that was funny. Now I gotta go. But now it's just like every weekend I gotta deal with that. But yeah, that first trip was wild.
Wow. No, that's great. Thank you for sharing that. And you're on the Kicks Factory podcast. We're here with Duane Lawrence. Welcome back to the Kicks Factory podcast. I'm here with Duane Lawrence, live from Xiamen, China. Let's get in the Converse, man, and D Wade. How did man, tell me the story, man. How did that all start?
Yeah, we dive into it a little more. I've been touching on it. So like I said, I started Converse in July of 2004. I'm on a plane by like August of 2004, maybe September, but it was you know, it was quick.
Yeah.
And I went there. We were working on, so we must have been working on fall, winter 2005 or something.
Okay.
And I went there with just like my sketchbook, because obviously I missed like the design cycle or like the briefs and all that kind of stuff. So, but I just want, you know, they tagged me along to go learn some stuff and see how the shoes get made and deal with pullovers and molds and all that kind of stuff. One of the development center heads over there, this guy Jerry Lon, he was a cool dude. He ran the development center that Converse worked with, And but his thing was like, he loved designers, but he would just be all up in your sketchbook. And he'd be all in your sketchbook, and like he saw the sketch for the Wade, which was sparked by the PLM at the time at Converse. He was just in a meeting talking about how we need to be more proud about our brand, and all that. So I think just like the essence of what he was saying, I threw the brand across the side of the shoe, and then built performance around it. So in China, the development head, he grabs the sketch. He's like, let me see that. Takes a sketch. A couple of days later, the upper for the Wade is like in front of me.
Damn, just like that.
Just like that.
That's great.
And, you know, this wasn't a shoe that was briefed in or, you know, sanctioned, so to speak, or whatever. He just made it. He did another one. He did like, I think maybe one or two other ones too.
Yeah.
And which was cool because the way Converse was kind of functioning back then was you kind of had that freedom to just make things and see.
Right. Right. They were just trying to figure things out and test. Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. As someone on the inline team, you don't really get the opportunity to just see something. And that's how he operated. It was just like, let's just get all these ideas on the table, which is cool.
That's great. So go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
So at this point, so Wade is what, in his second year in the league or something, or what? Where is he?
Right.
Yeah,
right.
second year in the league. So what? You know, we obviously know what he's like now with his partnership with Li Ning, creative director, really involved. It seems like, at least from the outside looking in, right, from a product creation perspective, what was his role in the creation process at all, if at all?
So at that time with that sketch and that pullover, we knew he was getting hot, but we hadn't at that time made the connection yet, and we were making like player editions and stuff. So because you know, that draft was LeBron and Carmelo really were the headliner. So Nike took LeBron, Jordan took Carmelo, and Converse scooped up pretty much almost everybody after that. They had Bosch, Wade, Heinrich, and
that's right. You're right. I remember that. Yeah.
Who else? Few other cat, Udonis.
Okay. So they were really trying to make a statement in basketball. Yeah. But that whole
thing was like, they were going to kind of do like a power of numbers thing.
Okay.
And I think at the time they thought Chris Bosh, and rightfully so, was probably going to be like the head guy, and then
out of that crew, right? Yeah, and I don't think no one really saw D Wade coming out of Marquette and like even getting drafted that high. I was even like, who's this D Wade dude?
Right.
Yeah.
Shout out to Rick Wilson. He saw it. He was the sports marketing guy over there at the time. So, long story short, Wade bubbles up. In his second year, he's hitting game winners and taking veterans, you know, out in the first round of playoffs, that kind of thing.
Yep.
And then we've just got this upper, and it's clean, it's simple. The marketing guy takes all the shoes, and when the samples came back from China, he takes all the shoes out on the road. You know how it is. To all the retailers, doing focus groups.
Yep.
And when he came back, it was a resounding, you know, like kind of like, well, what's that shoe? You know, or you pull out the bag and the kids are going crazy for that one.
Yep.
So, so he comes back and he's just like, this is D Wade's next shoe. And, you know, knowing the process and reading all the like Kixologies and stories and East Bay and all that kind of stuff, and knowing all the stories that Nike put out, he's like, well, if we're going to do a shoe for D Wade, like, let's start from, you know, D Wade's inspiration, but it was just so like, it was so overwhelming, and it kind of fit him. When we stopped and looked at him, he's like, it really does have like that smooth feel to it.
Yeah.
It really is.
That shoe was fire, man. That shoe was fire. And it's so crazy too when you think back on it, and as I'm listening to you talk, like it was almost like the perfect storm, where it was sort of, you know, he was kind of this like, you know, obviously he was a high draft pick, but he was still like sort of relatively unknown. And then you had this brand, and they fell on this design that you created, and the two together, and it just blew up, and the rest was kind of history from there. I mean, that shoe was dope. That black and white colorway in the finals. I mean, that's the one, man. Like that,
white
that has so many memories of watching games with him with that shoe on, and it's so just amazing that you were a part of that process, man. How do you feel even about that when you think back on that time?
I love it, man. Like you said, it's a perfect storm. That's what we always used to say then, and we would say it was of three things. We say it was a hot shoe that kind of was doing something different in the marketplace at the time, because people had been moving away from double asset shoes, and so to just drop that back in, like that. And then you had a brand that was well known, but in terms of basketball, it had become a little bit more obscure. And then you had this athlete who kind of just was able to carry both things, carry the brand and the design, and and outshine everything going on at the time. And it collided perfectly. Just kind of everything about it caught people off guard, like the shoe, the brand, the player, everything caught people off guard, and I think that's why it went so crazy. And then like the playoff colorway, definitely. I mean, there's lots of shoes right now that are black upper, white toe that he made popular.
Which is crazy. Which is kind of like kind of, at least when I was in, when I learned in the shoe business, was always a no-no, right? Like, you don't put a light color on the toe of a shoe, and then that just like broke every single rule when it came to that. But it just stood out so much, and it was just so dope. And I just still have that memory in my head of when they beat the Mavericks and him jumping into the air, tossing the ball up in the air with that shoe on. Man, that was such
you got it, man. I wasn't at that game, but I was at the two games before that in Miami. And that was so starting off as a Miami Heat ball boy, and then moving into going to school, and then getting picked up by Converse, and it almost wasn't Converse. That's a whole nother story. And then just kind of like our rise at the same time, just terms of like, me designing and him balling, and it just colliding the way it did. And then like to end up at games 4 and 5 in the arena. And I'm just like, next to Mavericks fans, just, giving them everything I got. Just that's the moment where I kind of like was able to pull myself out of the experience was, I think, watching him hit 2 free throws, just watch him take 2 free throws, and just being able to just stop and go, oh my God.
That's crazy.
Like, saying I'm in the NBA finals. Or like, there he is wearing my shoes, and I used to sit right there on that baseline and throw guys the ball, or whatever. And like, who knew? You know what I mean?
That's
who knew?
Amazing.
Like,
full circle.
6 years later,
came back full circle, and both of you guys were Duane's. But real quick,
Duane show at the time.
Yep, that's right. You are listening to the Kicks Factory podcast with Duane Lawrence. So circling back to that with the two Duanes, you guys like come in full circle, Miami Heat ball boy, in at the NBA finals, watching the games. I mean, that was always from my perspective, looking at it, that was super inspiring. Seeing that, and then I remember the Slam magazine article with the two of you guys in there, the picture sitting on the bleachers and all that. What was Wade like, if you give a little bit of insight just into him, and did he like evolve in the creative process and eventually become a little bit more part of that as he became this superstar in the league?
Yeah. So D Wade, as far as a character, he's as cool as he looks on TV or Instagram or wherever he is. He's cool. He's cool cat, class act. Was a joy to work with. And then as we progressed, he definitely became more vocal in what he was looking for in the shoe, in the process, and in understanding how much say he had, and knowing that his style choices and his lifestyle preferences are very influential, and just became more sure of himself, and which helped the process. He was able to say no when he didn't like it, or he was able to choose between options. And then as time went on, he was able to tell me why more why he would like something or why he didn't like something, which was key. And so I was able to like kind of pick up on his style more and more.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Yeah. You are listening to the Kicks Factory podcast, and we're going to take a little break. And when we come back, we're going to dive into Duane leaving Converse and then reuniting with Mr. Wade. On the Kicks Factory podcast with our guest, Duane Lawrence. So continuing the conversation of D Wade, I think it was in 2009 when he signed with Brand Jordan and left Nike. So, or left Converse for Nike. So the way that I saw that from my perspective as an outsider looking in was that D Wade just seemed like this big mega star, and Converse was just too small to like handle him. And Nike just said, "Okay, we're taking this asset over right now." Is that the same way that you felt like that whole situation went down?
Yeah, more or less. I think you know, I was working for Converse. I was at the Nike campus.
Yeah.
Those subsequent shoes, definitely with the two. It saw Converse and Nike trying to collaborate a lot more. And it was one of those situations where like, oh, they got something. And we were as open to them guiding us as they were wanting to help us. But there was a few bumps, you know, in the relationship. And I think ultimately it just set Wade off in terms of like, you know, Converse, like upper management and stuff like that. You know, I'm not sure. They're only gonna tell me so much, but yeah. But like it just seemed to make more sense for him to end up at Brand Jordan at the time. And yeah, he did. I think he did do that in 2009 because I left from Converse in 2009 as well. And so yeah, he had a quick. It's funny. I was just talking about this with some of my colleagues today. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. Wow. That's crazy. I guess it ran its course, but you guys had a great run, man. That was an amazing time just in sneaker history and a story that I feel like should be told a lot more frequently than it is, which, you know, hopefully we're playing a small role in that. So fast forward to 2012, Wade signs with Li Ning. You're doing work with Li Ning. You guys are able to reunite. Did you guys have a little party? Like how'd that all happen?
So my path was I went from Converse to Li Ning, and then I actually went from Li Ning to Adidas, and then I went freelance. I had an opportunity. I was working with another NBA player to start a brand, and I felt like that was, you know, more me. To kind of, I'm always looking for some like unknown. It's the unknown opportunity, I guess, is why I'm in China right now.
Yeah.
But I was contracting on working on that project, and I also found myself back working with the folks at Li Ning. I have a great relationship with my guy Eric Miller, who's there. He was with me at Converse, and he went to Li Ning, pulled me in, and then when I bounced from Adidas and then came back, you know, he was still there running. At that point, now he'd been running the show, so he was working on the Wade deal, and they pulled Wade back in. So he was the lead designer for like the Li Ning Wade stint, and I was supporting for like the first 4 shoes.
Okay.
He and I would tag team those. We've just always been able to work well together. And then he was definitely the guy, and I just was kind of laid back, and you know, would meet with he and Wade from time to time when it made sense. So that stint with D Wade was just, you know, a lesser role, but still just influential on the behind the scenes part.
Gotcha. And just for those who are listening, you know, we're not into promoting brands all the time here, but Li Ning is a Chinese owned, Chinese based basketball shoe brand. It's quite a few of them out there now. But just for those of listeners out there who are wondering what Li Ning is, if you haven't heard of it, just in case. So so you went through that whole time, and fast forward. I want to fast forward a little bit to today, and what you're, and I think by now everyone knows that you're joining us live from China.
Yeah.
What are you doing today? What's going on? What's happening with you in China?
So fast forward through different projects. I was in Portland. I was in the Bay Area. I started contracting for Anta, which is where I am now, through their U.S. design center that they started a few years ago. And it was cool. It was, this, I'd obviously heard of Anta, but I didn't know much about the brand. So to get the opportunity to work with them was cool. It just intrigued me. But the issue was I couldn't really feel the brand. You work at a company, you feel what they're about, you hear about it every day. And the briefs and the projects that were coming to me just seemed a little random. One day it was running, one day it was basketball, one day it was like lifestyle skate inspired. One day they were making up, subcategories. And I just wanted to know a little bit more about where they were coming from. And the more that they gave me to do, the more I just got interested. So I asked some questions, and I'm not too shocked that I'm here because of all the times that I came here, I always felt like I was learning something and growing. And I actually have considered moving here in the past, so I'm not too surprised that I'm here. But anyway, but the doors had never opened up as easily as it did this time when I inquired about like what would it be to be there, so I can really feel the culture of the company. Yeah. So they were open to it.
Okay.
They definitely wanted some fresh perspective on basketball, and they pulled me over.
That's man, you've had quite the journey, my friend, all over the place, from Miami to China and everywhere in between. One thing I want to do is also for the listeners out there, especially the young ones, is be able to give them some seeds or some nuggets so that they can take those back as they go through their own personal and professional development. One of the questions I want to ask you is, what kind of advice would you give to your younger self if you could go back in the time, knowing what you know now?
I would tell my younger self to try to embrace the I don't want to make it sound too terrible, but like the corporate game, like try to embrace the like the softer skills, and just and it's not, there's more to the design world than just like sketching, learning the business and just being at work and being at that grind, and definitely I would tell my younger self to like become a sponge more, just try to soak up as much as you can. Like we get so I think we want to create so much that we forget to give ourselves time to absorb as well, and give that creative muscle a break, because it can burn out. It's a muscle and it can burn out. I think those would be the key things that I would point out.
Man, that's great. That's amazing. You are listening to the Kicks Factory podcast here with Duane Lawrence, live from China. With that said, and just wanting to stay on that subject a little bit more, I get messages all the time from young people wanting just any sort of information that they can get on the business, as I'm sure you as well. I want to, it's hard. Like you said, we talked about a little earlier, like, with it wasn't a whole lot of information out there when, in our time when we was younger, trying to figure out how do you get into the shoe business. My parents also, from the Caribbean, and, they were very supportive, but they had no clue what I wanted to
Right.
like how to
Right.
help me get into that
Yeah.
space. You know, is there any other advice that you'd want to give maybe some young a young guy, young person out there who just might feel lost and you know they want to get into this space or into a creative space and just need sort of a little push on
Yeah.
how to do that?
I would definitely say, obviously, you've got to perfect your craft. You got to keep perfecting your craft. The presentation of your craft is important, right?
Yeah.
So we say in school all the time, presentation is everything. So,
Yep.
you know, you got some nice ideas, cool. Make sure that the way you present them, the way you come at people is packaged up right.
Right.
And then just try your best to meet as many people in as many positions as possible. And always keep in mind that everyone in the room is important. You know, everybody plays a role. So there isn't any one person that can, you know, pull any string for you more than the next, and just try to meet everybody, try to gain what you can from everybody at
Right.
whatever level they are. Because this industry is small. People shift and move, and you have no idea where and when somebody can help you.
Yeah.
So just stick with it and continue to perfect your craft, because if you're doing that, people will take notice.
Absolutely. And just to add to that too, I also think, listening is really important. Like one of the things that one of the pieces of advice I got a long time ago, and one of the things that I've learned being in the industry as well, is that people who are successful really like talking about themselves. So just listen to what they have to say, ask questions and listen, and you'll be really surprised on the things that you'll learn. We're going to wrap this up. This is the Kicks Factory podcast with Duane Lawrence, my brother from another mother. It was a pleasure chopping it up with you, talking about our Detroit days, ball boy days, Converse, a little bit of everything. It was truly a pleasure, man.
It was, man. It's like, I don't know how we could, I don't know if you're trying to do an hour, 2 hour, what the show is going to be about. We could do this. We could do this another hour, 2 hours, 3 hours.
We could go. We could dive deep into some of these stories. I don't know if the audience is ready for that one just yet. We might have to do a part 2 to this for sure. For sure.
Well,
man.
I appreciate you hollering at me, man. And obviously it was an easy answer for me to jump on and talk about this stuff. I would do it again whenever you need, and keep you up to date on what it is I'm working on. Definitely got like some cool things dropping pretty soon. So,
awesome,
whatever you need from me, man. Good to see you,
man. No, that's great, man. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you soon whenever that time comes again. And thank you so much for sharing your journey with us.
I appreciate you, man. Take it easy. Kicks Factory.
That's it. All right. And for my closing statements for the Kicks Factory podcast, Duane was a fantastic guest. As I mentioned, really good, dear friend of mine. Someone that I care deeply about and wish him all the success going forward. And that's what this podcast is about. It's meant to inspire those of you out there who are looking for a path, who are trying to find some guidance, a little information, into this business, into other creative fields. As we talked about in our conversation. And I think it's changed, but it was difficult to always get support, at least when I was growing up. And I think the same thing for Duane, to get into the creative field, into the creative space. And by having some strong family support, as I did as well, we were able to find our way. We may not have had all the answers in the beginning, but I think we were good at being in the right place at the right time more than once. and it's something that really does go a long way. If you don't have the resources, you don't have the money to put yourself into certain situations, then network, talk to everyone, keep your eyes open, look at people in the eyes when you're talking to them, project confidence, right? It doesn't matter what you're doing, whether you're playing a sport or you're a designer, confidence is key and really, really important. And that's what this podcast is all about. And we're going to continue to do this and continue to bring you these really interesting and extraordinary guests from all walks of life in the footwear business. And you can really expect that this level of quality when it comes to our guests going forward. So really appreciate the time that you took to listen to our show today, and we look forward to doing this again. So we'll see you next time. Make sure to follow us on the Kicks Factory _ Instagram account as well.
Kudzukian. Check out all your Kudzukian favorites now. Download the Kudzukian app, available on Android and iOS.